Morning! Pretty. Okay, so I thought I was going to talk about something that, well, it's not a new product or anything like that, but it has a few really cool ideas that I want to mention, which, like, it really inspired me to start thinking about, like, performance in a different kind of way. So there's an application that Twitter has released. It's called Twitter Lite. You may or may not have heard of it, and if you haven't, I suggest you take a little bit of a look at the application, and you have a look at the documentation and some publications that they've made that relates to how they did what they did, and like the considerations that they took and so forth to make it. But from my very my understanding of the intent behind this application was that it be as lightweight as possible and optimized for the third world, in essence, or rather places where you have very spotty connections, or like the network is really bad, or you have providers that have absurd fees and you don't have that much traffic support for your mobile devices. So in essence, to me, that translates to the third world. And well, I suppose that can happen in the Western world too, but that's the idea anyway. And one of the things that I think is genius about it, apart from it's a progressive web application, and I actually did a video a while back where I said that I don't think that progressive web apps is the thing to go with. It's such a narrow use case for so many reasons. Unless you're making something very specific, it doesn't make sense. Like for a traditional web page or whatever, it doesn't really make sense to make it a progressive web app if you have a web shop or something like that. But there are absolutely situations when it's really useful, and this is one such situation. The reason why, and so they have made it a progressive web application, and it is absolutely beautiful. This application has geniuses, there is genius involved here. Whoever, they have really thought this application through. It's a React application. It uses service workers. I think they are using service workers, and it is so clever, so clever. And my absolute favorite part about it, apart from it using a service worker and having an offline thirst type of mentality, and I'm not an expert on this whatsoever, but I do know, if you want to learn more about service workers, look at anything that Jake Archibald produces. That guy is the genie of service workers. I think if you say his name 3 times, he just appears. If you say service worker 3 times, he just appears and explains to you why you should make your applications progressive. But anywho, that's just one part of the offline first mentality. And if you think about it, that is really clever for a application where basically the header and the footer, that's always going to be the same. Twitter, for the most part, that's always going to be the same thing. So the templates for the different cards in a Twitter feed is also always going to be the same thing. And this is a React application, so it doesn't make any sense whatsoever for you to get that information more than once. So the first time you run Twitter Lite, it's going to cache everything, all of it on your device, and then you really only have to get the data from the API that Twitter has, and that's really low, very little information in comparison. So that's really clever. And the next part that makes this really clever is that a Twitter feed usually contains, depending on how many people you follow, you have a lot of information. Odds are that you will at any given time have more posts to read than you can possibly read in, most people have their phone on the bus. So it's very likely that you will not have read all the content that you load to your device. Once again, a really good example of how a service worker can be of use here, because now you're caching all the data so that when, if you go into a tunnel or if you're in an offline situation, you can actually access that information. You can't get new information, but you still have all the stuff that you wanted to, that you most likely haven't read already on all those posts. And you can get even fancier. I mean, this is a little bit over the top for me, but you can start thinking about, okay, what if we use the local storage APIs in the browser to store all the stuff that you might want to post and all that information, and basically keep a local cache of all the writes to the server that you want to make, and then we flush all of that good stuff to the server when you have a connection. You can do that too, and maybe they are doing something like that, but that's a feasible thing to do as well. And this is what I was saying about service. I'm not against progressive web apps. I just don't think that I don't think it's going to become a common thing, because it's one of those things that I think that some people are going to do and some people are not, and I don't think that you should feel bad if you don't do it, because it's, in my opinion, kind of like the optimization game. Everybody's talking about having 1 second load times for their web pages as being the most, if you listen to performance people, they talk as if that's the only thing that will make anybody come to your application, and it's just not true. It's just not true. The average load time on many web pages today is much higher than that. Much higher. And the web is still here, so. Anyway, the piece of genius that I like the most, and I think this is so great. I was first introduced to the concept by Facebook. They had a concept that they call glossy image, or the glass effect, the ice effect, or whatever. And basically, it's the idea that you create a placeholder, like that's not Facebook's thing necessarily, but the idea being that you want to get something visually on the screen as fast as humanly possible, to indicate a progression in the loading of the application. Now, Microsoft was really good at this back in the day, and they still are, to give the user a sensation, like the perceived load time feels that make that to feel shorter. And so you create like these placeholder components for your page that is going to kind of outline or wireframe up how the page is going to look once it's loaded. And that is really helpful when you have a slow connection or something like that. And basically it is you use JavaScript and CSS to create placeholders on the page, and then you asynchronously load in everything with JavaScript and put it in place when you have the information. Now, the glossy effect, or the glass, not the glossy effect, but I don't even remember exactly what the name was, but basically it's the idea is that if you have images, which is like notoriously large and difficult to get on a page quickly, you basically have a version of the image that is really, really, really low quality, and you basically use that as a placeholder. It looks very much like looking through a frost-covered window of the actual image, and that is, as far as I understood, that is actually close enough so that you can recognize, as a human, you can recognize that, okay, this is that's virtual, like you can kind of guess what the image is going to be. The effect is really powerful, and then once you have loaded that, which you can load almost instantly, you can then load the actual image, and it's going to and basically fade out that image and fade in the real image. The effect is really, really powerful, and it's really, really cool. And Twitter Lite takes this to the next level. So they use a very low quality image in their feed, And then at the bottom, like at the side of the image or the video, they put an indicator showing how large this file is, which is really powerful, because remember, if you have bad network and limited bandwidth, this is great. You can keep on scrolling. I mean, I wish we did this in the West as well. Because oftentimes I'm scrolling through my flow and there's like a million images I don't care about. I'm still paying for those images. How great would it be if they reduce the size of these images to the bare minimum? Because I mean, if I have this glossy effect, I can still see what type of image it is, and if I want to see the actual image of the actual video, all you have to do is to click the image and then it's loaded. And Twitter Lite does this so well. Check it out, it's really cool. I think it should be a standard practice. Honestly, I honestly believe it should be a standard practice, not just for countries with these types of issues, but just globally. I think it's really cool. So yeah, take a look at Twitter Lite. It has some really cool ideas if you're a front-end, for whatever occupation you have, like if you're front-end, server-side, whatever. Look at what they did and look up their documentation and the publications that they made, because there are some really cool ideas in that application.